In the dimly lit study of our sprawling estate, where shadows seemed to stretch endlessly like the weight of my destiny, my father's voice cut through the silence with an unyielding sharpness. "Gabriel," he began, his tone cold and calculated. "From now on, you will be the hat of our clan and continue my work." His words hung heavy in the air, each syllable a hammer blow against my resolve. I clenched my fists beneath the table, trying to steady myself, but inside I was drowning, a storm of defiance and fear raging within me. I wanted nothing to do with this life. The very thought of carrying forward the legacy of bloodshed and power made my stomach churn. But it wasn't just about rejecting the title. It was about defying everything my family stood for. My refusal had consequences far beyond what anyone could imagine. Father leaned forward, his eyes piercing into mine as if he could see every ounce of rebellion brewing inside me. "You know what happens to traitors in this family, don't you?" He growled, his voice low yet laced with venom. "If you defy me again, you won't just lose your place, you'll lose your life." The stakes were higher than ever before. Our mafia clan, once untouchable, was teetering on the brink of collapse. Rival gangs circled us like vultures, eager to tear apart the empire my ancestors had built over decades. Every day brought news of another betrayal, another ambush, another death. It felt like we were fighting not only external enemies, but also the ghosts of our own making. And in the midst of all this chaos, my father saw me as the last hope, the one who could restore order and crush our adversaries. To him, having a successor wasn't just tradition, it was survival. But I wasn't ready to become the monster they expected me to be. Instead, I resisted at every turn, even when it cost me dearly. They forced me into brutal training sessions designed to harden my heart and sharpen my instincts. Each session pushed me closer to breaking point, both physically and mentally. One particularly harrowing day, I found myself face to face with a rival gang member they'd captured. "Kill him," my instructor ordered, shoving a knife into my hand. My hands trembled as I stared at the man tied up before me, his eyes wide with terror. I couldn't do it. Not because I pitied him, but because I refused to let them turn me into someone I didn't recognize. That act of defiance earned me 3 days locked in a pitch-black cell, left alone with nothing but my thoughts and the echoes of my father's threats. "This is your future unless you fall in line," he'd said after dragging me out, his grip tightening painfully around my arm. Yet, despite the punishment, I remained steadfast. I clashed openly with other leaders in the clan, challenging their methods and questioning their morality. Some dismissed me as naive, while others viewed me as a threat. There were whispers among the ranks that I might betray the family entirely, and those rumors only fueled my father's paranoia. Every moment felt like walking a tightrope above a chasm of danger. I knew that stepping too far out of line would mean disaster, not just for me, but for anyone foolish enough to stand by my side. Still, I couldn't bring myself to conform. Deep down, I believed there was another way, even if I hadn't found it yet. But as the pressure mounted and the walls closed in, I began to wonder, how long could I hold on before the weight of expectation crushed me completely? The first time I saw Evelyn, she was sitting in the corner of her cell, her arms wrapped tightly around her knees as if trying to shield herself from the world. Her eyes were hollow, but there was a flicker of defiance in them that both intrigued and unsettled me. She wasn't just a prisoner. She was a caged animal, desperate and dangerous. My father's men had made sure of that. Every day they reminded her of her fate. If she didn't confess the reason behind her attack on me, she would be executed without hesitation. The psychological torment was relentless. Whispers of death echoed through the cold stone walls, seeping into her mind like poison. I approached her cautiously, my footsteps echoing ominously in the confined space. "Evelyn," I said softly, hoping my voice wouldn't startle her further. But before I could take another step, she lunged at me with a shard of broken glass, its jagged edge glinting menacingly in the dim light. I froze, my heart pounding as the sharp tip grazed my arm, drawing a thin line of blood. For a moment, we locked eyes, hers filled with panic and rage, mine with shock and something else. Pity, admiration. Whatever it was, it stopped me from retaliating. Instead, I slowly backed away, raising my hands in surrender. That encounter left an indelible mark on me. It wasn't just the physical danger. It was the realization of how far desperation could push someone. Evelyn wasn't attacking out of malice. She was fighting for survival. And yet, despite her ferocity, I couldn't shake the feeling that she deserved better than this. Better than being trapped in a dungeon. Better than being treated like a pawn in my father's twisted game. From that moment on, I resolved to help her. Not because I owed her anything, but because it felt like the only humane thing to do. But helping Evelyn came at a cost I hadn't anticipated. One fateful night, I snuck into the kitchen, gathering food and medicine to smuggle to her. I knew the risks. If I got caught, it wouldn't just be my life on the line, but I couldn't stand by while she suffered. As I crept through the shadows, I felt a surge of adrenaline, each step bringing me closer to discovery. When I finally reached her cell, I handed over the supplies, our fingers brushing briefly. For a fleeting second, I thought I saw gratitude in her eyes, but it vanished as quickly as it appeared. My luck ran out the next morning. My father summoned me to his study, his expression unreadable, but his tone laced with fury. "Do you think I'm blind, Gabriel?" He spat, slamming his fist onto the desk. "I know what you've been doing. Feeding her, aiding her. Have you forgotten who you are? Who we are?" His words cut deeper than any blade, but I refused to back down. "She's a human being, not a trophy to parade your power," I shot back, my voice trembling with anger. My defiance only fueled his rage. Without warning, he ordered his guards to drag me to a pitch-black room deep within the estate. The air was suffocating, thick with dust and despair. 3 days. That's how long I spent in that abyss, alone with nothing but my thoughts and the gnawing guilt of leaving Evelyn unprotected. Each hour stretched into eternity, the silence punctuated only by the sound of my own breathing. By the time they released me, I was physically weak but emotionally resolute. If anything, those 3 days solidified my determination to free Evelyn and myself from the chains binding us to this monstrous legacy. When I returned to her cell, Evelyn eyed me warily, unsure whether to trust me after my absence. "You're still here," she muttered, her voice tinged with disbelief. "Why?" I hesitated, searching for the right words. "Because no one deserves to live like this," I replied finally. For the first time, I saw a crack in her armor, a flicker of vulnerability beneath the hardened exterior. It was small, but it was enough to give me hope. As the days stretched into weeks, my relationship with Evelyn became a fragile dance of trust and suspicion. She hated me, or so she wanted me to believe. At first, her hatred was palpable. Every glance she gave me carried venom, every word dripped with disdain. But beneath that hostility lay something else. Fear. Fear of what I represented, a life she despised, a world built on lies and violence. Yet, despite her animosity, I couldn't abandon her. Every time I looked into her eyes, I saw not just defiance, but also vulnerability. And it was that vulnerability that kept me coming back. One fateful night, as I crept through the labyrinthine halls of our estate toward Evelyn's cell, I felt an unease gnawing at my gut. Something wasn't right. My instincts screamed danger, but I ignored them, driven by desperation. When I reached her door, I froze. A guard stood there, his silhouette illuminated faintly by the flickering torchlight. He hadn't seen me yet, but he was suspiciously close to discovering my secret. Panic surged through me. If he reported this to my father, everything would unravel. My plans, my hope for freedom, even Evelyn's life. I acted before I could second-guess myself. With one swift motion, I grabbed him from behind, covering his mouth to silence any cry for help. We struggled in the shadows, his muffled grunts echoing softly against the stone walls. It wasn't supposed to end like this. I didn't want to kill him. I never wanted blood on my hands. But when he reached for his weapon, I had no choice. The sickening crunch of bone and the dull thud of his body hitting the ground left me breathless, guilt-ridden, and trembling. I stared at the lifeless figure, my chest heaving, my mind screaming accusations at me. What have you done? The weight of what I'd done pressed down on me like a mountain, but there was no turning back now. This death, the first life I'd taken, would haunt me forever. Evelyn noticed the change in me after that night. Though she didn't know the details, she sensed the darkness lingering over me. For a while, she tried to exploit it. One day, she approached me with feigned warmth, her voice softer than usual. "Thank you," she said, her tone almost sincere, "for helping me." I nodded cautiously, unsure if this sudden shift was genuine or another ploy. That same evening, she attempted to escape. She used a makeshift tool I'd unknowingly left behind, a piece of broken glass, and managed to unlock her cell. But her plan unraveled quickly. My father's men caught her within minutes, dragging her back to the dungeon. When I found out, I confronted my father, pleading for her life. "She made a mistake," I shouted, my voice cracking under the strain of emotion. "Don't punish her for wanting freedom." His response was cold, calculated. "Freedom is earned, Gabriel, not stolen." As they prepared to execute her, I intervened, stepping between the firing squad and Evelyn. "If you kill her, you'll have to kill me too," I declared, my voice unwavering despite the terror coursing through me. The standoff lasted agonizing seconds, but eventually my father relented, though not without warning. "This isn't over." That incident marked a turning point in Evelyn's perception of me. Slowly, reluctantly, she began to see me as more than just the son of a mobster. Still, trust didn't come easily. One harrowing night, she fell gravely ill, her fever spiking dangerously high. Her breathing grew shallow, her skin clammy and pale. Watching her suffer tore at my soul. There was only one place I could find medicine: the family's locked supply room, guarded around the clock. Breaking in was suicide, but I couldn't let her die. Under the cover of darkness, I slipped through the corridors, my heart pounding like a war drum. Each step brought me closer to discovery, each shadow threatening to expose me. When I finally reached the supply room, I picked the lock with shaking hands, sweat dripping down my face. Just as I grabbed the medication, alarms blared throughout the estate. Lights flooded the hallway and shouts erupted behind me. I sprinted, dodging bullets and narrowly avoiding capture. By the time I returned to Evelyn, my body was battered, my clothes torn, but I didn't care. All that mattered was saving her. As I administered the medicine, Evelyn's fever began to break. Her eyes fluttered open, meeting mine with a mixture of confusion and gratitude. "Why?" she whispered weakly. I smiled despite the exhaustion weighing me down. "Because you're worth it," I replied simply. In that moment, something shifted between us. The walls she'd built around herself started to crumble, replaced by a tentative connection neither of us fully understood yet. The initiation ceremony was unlike anything I'd ever witnessed. A spectacle of ancient rituals and suffocating tradition, designed to bind me irrevocably to the family's dark legacy. The grand hall was filled with members of the clan, their faces stern and expectant, as if they were watching a sacrificial lamb being led to the altar. My father stood at the center, his presence commanding and unyielding, flanked by elders who watched my every move like vultures circling prey. When it was time for me to step forward, my legs felt like lead, each step heavier than the last. "Gabriel," my father began, his voice booming through the cavernous room. "From now on, you will be the hat of our clan and continue my work." His words hung in the air, each syllable laced with finality. But instead of bowing my head in submission, I raised it defiantly. "I don't want anything to do with this," I declared, my voice trembling but resolute. Gasps rippled through the crowd, followed by murmurs of disbelief. Never before had anyone dared defy the patriarch during such a sacred event. My father's expression turned icy, his jaw tightening as he processed my betrayal. Then, without warning, 2 guards dragged Evelyn into the hall, her wrists bound and her face pale with fear. Her eyes met mine, wide and pleading, and in that moment I realized how far my father would go to break me. "If you refuse," he growled, stepping closer until we were nearly nose to nose, "she dies. Right here, right now." The threat pierced through me like a dagger, leaving me paralyzed with indecision. Accepting the role meant sacrificing everything I believed in. Refusing meant condemning Evelyn to death. Before I could respond, one of the senior leaders, a ruthless man named Victor, stepped forward, his voice cutting through the tension like a blade. "Enough of this nonsense," he spat. "Both of them are liabilities. Kill them both and make an example out of traitors." His words sent a collective shiver through the room, and for a brief moment, chaos erupted. Some shouted in agreement, while others protested, citing my bloodline as reason enough to spare me. Amidst the uproar, Evelyn locked eyes with me again, shaking her head subtly, as if telling me not to give in. Time seemed to slow as I weighed my options. Every fiber of my being screamed against submitting to their demands. Yet the thought of losing Evelyn was unbearable. I clenched my fists, trying to steady myself, when suddenly a memory flashed before my eyes. Her laughter during rare moments of peace, the flicker of trust she'd begun to show me, the life growing inside her. That realization ignited something within me, a fierce determination to protect what mattered most. "I'll do it," I said finally, my voice hollow but firm. The room fell silent, all eyes fixed on me. My father smirked triumphantly, but there was no joy in his victory. It was a fleeting illusion. Little did he know my compliance was merely a facade. In that moment, I vowed silently that I would find a way to escape this nightmare, no matter the cost. The revelation of Evelyn's pregnancy during a routine medical checkup sent shockwaves through the household, and none more profound than within my father. When the doctor hesitantly delivered the news, his face contorted with rage, veins bulging on his temples. "How dare you disgrace this family?" he roared, slamming his fist onto the table. For a moment, I thought he might act on his darkest impulses, killing both Evelyn and the unborn child to preserve the clan's so-called honor. His guards surrounded us, weapons drawn, their eyes cold and unyielding. Evelyn clutched my arm, trembling but resolute, her defiance shining even in the face of death. But then something unexpected happened. My father froze, his anger giving way to an unreadable expression. Without another word, he dismissed everyone from the room, leaving only silence between us. That night, I overheard him pacing in his study, muttering to himself about legacy, redemption, and second chances. By morning, his decision was made. Summoning me to the grand hall, he announced, "From now on, my offspring will have whatever they want. Freedom." The weight of those words hung heavy in the air, shocking not just me, but the entire clan. It was a declaration no one saw coming, a promise that the next generation would not be shackled by the sins of the past. Yet freedom did not come without a price. As we prepared to leave the estate, chaos erupted. A group of assassins loyal to one of the senior leaders who opposed my father's sudden change of heart ambushed us near the gates. Their leader sneered as he stepped forward, brandishing a blade. "You think you can walk away from this life?" he taunted. "No one leaves the clan alive." Adrenaline surged through me as I pushed Evelyn behind me, shielding her with my body. "Run," I whispered urgently. She hesitated. Fear etched across her face, but I insisted. "Trust me." And for the first time, she obeyed without question. Bullets whizzed past us, shattering windows and tearing into walls. I fought back with everything I had, using techniques drilled into me during years of training. But these were no ordinary opponents. One assailant managed to land a brutal blow to my side, sending searing pain radiating through my torso. Blood soaked my shirt, but I refused to falter. Every strike I delivered, every step I took was fueled by desperation, not just for my survival, but for hers. When it seemed like all hope was lost, Evelyn returned wielding a piece of broken furniture as a makeshift weapon. Her unexpected intervention gave me the opening I needed to disarm the remaining attackers. Together, battered and bleeding, we emerged victorious, but barely. Exhaustion overwhelmed me and I collapsed against her, my vision blurring. "We're free," I murmured, my voice weak but filled with relief. Back at the estate, my father gathered the remaining members of the clan to deliver one final proclamation. "I am stepping down," he declared, his voice steady despite the storm of reactions erupting around him. "All power will be handed to Victor, and I sever all ties with this world." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Some shouted in outrage, while others stared in stunned silence. This was unprecedented. A mafia patriarch willingly walking away from his empire. But as he locked eyes with me, I understood. He wasn't doing it for himself. He was doing it for the future, for the child Evelyn carried, for a new beginning untainted by bloodshed. As we drove away from the estate under the pale light of dawn, Evelyn rested her head on my shoulder, her hand resting protectively over her stomach. "What happens now?" she asked softly. I smiled despite the pain still coursing through me. "Now we live." In the quiet solitude of a remote countryside, Gabriel and Evelyn began to build their new life, a modest home nestled between rolling hills and endless fields. It was a far cry from the opulent estate they had fled, but it represented everything they had fought for: freedom, peace, and a chance to rewrite their story. Every brick laid, every beam secured was a testament to their resilience and unwavering hope. They worked tirelessly, side by side, planting seeds not just in the earth, but in the future of their unborn child. For the first time, they allowed themselves to dream, a simple, humble dream untouched by the shadows of their past. As the days passed, Gabriel found himself reflecting on the journey that had brought them here. The scars, both physical and emotional, still lingered, reminders of the battles they had endured. Yet amidst the pain, there was an undeniable sense of gratitude. He picked up a pen one evening, determined to express what weighed heavily on his heart. His letter began with trembling hands, each word carefully chosen. "Father, I don't know if you'll ever read this, but I need to say it nonetheless. Thank you for changing, for letting us go, for giving my child a chance at a life free from the chains of our family's legacy. I won't pretend to understand why you made that choice, but I respect it more than I can put into words. You taught me many things, some of which I despise, but today I see something different in you. Redemption. Evelyn and I have started anew. We live simply, humbly, yet we've never been happier. This place is a world away from everything we once knew, a sanctuary where love isn't overshadowed by fear or violence. Our child will grow up surrounded by kindness, laughter, and unconditional affection. No darkness will touch them. No hatred will poison their soul. That is our promise, to ourselves and to the future. Through all the chaos, one truth has remained constant. Love and hope are the greatest forces against despair. Even in the darkest moments, when it felt like the world was closing in, those two things kept us alive. They gave us the strength to fight, to endure, to believe in a better tomorrow. If there's anything I want our child to inherit, it's that lesson, that no matter how deep the night, dawn always follows. Please know that while I may never return, I carry no bitterness in my heart. Perhaps someday when the wounds heal further, we might meet again. Not as enemies or strangers, but as people who share blood and humanity. With respect, Gabriel." He folded the letter, sealing it with wax, knowing he might never send it. But writing it had given him closure, a way to honor the man his father had become, rather than the monster he once feared. Some people leave scars, others leave lessons. Burn and reborn stories that break you, then rebuild you.